Okay, good morning everybody. So we are going to continue the questions of the washed one, Dotaka. Remember Dotakas and Dotikas. So I just left a very important verse out yesterday because I wanted to take more time. And it's also nice to do this at a time when we are well rested already. And this is also good. In a 9-day retreat, we are coming very close to the end. Yeah, so it is like almost 6 or 7 days have passed. And hopefully, if you all listened to the instructions on the first day, if you have taken it easy in the beginning, had taken time to rest, sleep well, eat in the right way, right amount. So you have done much good to find that seclusion or kaya viveka, like the freedom from all the difficulties in the body. So kind of interesting, right? So viveka or the seclusion, it is always a seclusion from something that is hindering us. That is sort of causing us trouble, being secluded from that. So when it comes to the seclusion of the body or kaya viveka, it is that bodily inertia or whatever difficulty, the heaviness, pains, aches, tiredness, exhaustion that you feel, like so being secluded from that idea, right? So hopefully many of you have come at least to that point. Never mind the meditation. At least having a rested body. Is that nice? Do you feel rested? Yeah, compared to your busy day back home, going back to work, having to deal with many things, husbands and wives and children and parents and pets, all kinds of things. So compared to that, just having this time where you don't have to think about the food that you're going to eat, it is being provided, really delicious food, and there is also a choice, so you don't have to worry. There's nice rooms, thanks to Ajahn Brahm's amazing vision in giving people like a single room with a bathroom and everything, so you can be comfortable. It's not luxurious, but it is just right, I feel, to get that rest that you need. This is really necessary. So the verse that we are referring to is this one, teach me Brahma out of compassion. The idea of seclusion, Viveka Dhamma, so that I may understand, I would wander right here, peaceful, independent, unobstructed, as space itself. So that's what we are still going to talk about. So earlier, during a Q&A session, I did mention about 3 types of seclusions. So I want to really bring that sutta out and talk a little bit more about it because it's kind of important as well. But before that, actually, let me say how much the Buddha appreciated and encouraged all of us to go into seclusion, as in even to go into the forest, to an empty hut, to a foot of a tree. This is how he talks about seclusion, as in going away. How much he appreciated this idea of being away from the hustle and bustle of the city or the village or with those kind of busy lives. He appreciated it a lot. So he himself was seen to do this, very frequently. Even on a daily basis, he would retire into the forest and meditate after the meal, rest and stay in seclusion. But also he also took the 3-month rains retreat. And you wonder, why does Buddha need the retreat? He's already done his job. But he says he does it, ditta dhamma sukha viharana, to abide in a peaceful, happy abiding right here and now, because you are in meditation, in seclusion, both physically and the seclusion of the mind. But also as a way of giving example for the future generation. So we are also inspired right? Not get carried away with all these projects and things, but just to stop everything. When it is rains retreat, just to spend more time on retreat. So this is one thing. And there is another sutta, now I forget the name of the sutta, but in this sutta, it could be a Migajala sutta, there are a couple of them, where the Buddha is wandering together with a large group of Sangha, and as he was passing by, he sees a monk sitting really in perfect posture, completely like, full lotus, body straight, and beautiful smile, looking like the perfect meditator. He's at the edge of the forest. Edge of the forest is the starting point of the village. So edge of the forest or edge of the village. And that is where he's sitting and meditating. As the Buddha goes past this monk, he's shaking his head unhappy and saying, I'm not happy with this monk. And all the other monks were like, what, we can't believe he looks like the perfect monk. We wish we could be meditating like this. Why are you not happy? But they probably don't ask at that time. But they were kind of surprised at Buddha's reaction. They probably thought he would be very pleased to see this perfectly meditating monk. And then they enter into the forest, and they are going through the forest, and they see somewhere in the middle of the forest there is another monk who is dozing off like this and like that, half asleep, half meditating, full of sloth and torpor, not in perfect posture at all. And the Buddha says, oh, I am happy with this one. And the monks were very confused. What? You want all us to just be dozing and meditating like this? What's going on? And then later they asked, so why were you not happy with the monk who was meditating perfectly in perfect posture? And why were you happy with that monk who was in the middle of the forest, half asleep almost, trying to meditate? And the Buddha says, this monk who was falling asleep, he's just undergoing some sloth and torpor, but sooner or later he will overcome that sloth, that difficulty, because after a while you wake up and then he will be meditating. But because he's in seclusion, nobody would disturb him, he will be able to get into deep meditation. So no problem, his posture will become okay, he will meditate well, so I'm not worried about him, I'm happy about him. But this other monk who's at the edge of the village, well, he may be meditating well right now, but sooner or later he'll come out of that meditation too. But because he's at the edge, there will be somebody who'd come and disturb him, because that's the nature of people, right? When they see monastics, they have to go and ask them questions. So at least, what can I get you? How can I help you? You just don't want to leave sometimes monastics alone, right? They want to engage, and while doing so, he might get distracted and his meditation might fall. And sure enough, apparently, this monk who was at the edge of the village, after a couple of weeks, disrobed and got married. Probably a nice woman came to offer dana, and maybe who knows what happened. And that was the end of his monastic life. But this other monk was falling asleep in the middle of the forest, but then later overcame his sloth and torpor. But because he was away from these distractions that can take us away, he was able to get into deep meditation, and in no long time became another Aryan in the world, something like this. So anyway, these are little things to show that it is important, at least in the very beginning, as we are building up our meditation, to find a conducive place. Don't think, I am a meditator now, so I can sit in the middle of the city or in the middle of the nightclub or supermarket and meditate. But yes, you might be able to get to that point when you're very proficient in meditation. But even Ajahn Brahm says it's not that easy. It's not the best kind of place. Buddha never recommended to do it like that. As much as possible, if we find a place that is quite away from this hustle and bustle of the city. And the forests are incredibly conducive. I hope you all have had a chance to go for walks here in the forest, and experience, the trees and the plants and the little animals. That's beautiful energy. There is something nice about being in the forest. There's something that calms you down. When you go into the city, something agitates you. Just being there, just being in an aircraft, being in, in a train station, shopping mall, there's something that's constantly somehow, the energies are very different. But in the nature, it's kind of very different, very beautiful. And it is very conducive to allowing then the mind to settle down. So the body needs to be taken care of, because we have to also work with this body. The body is an old karma, the Buddha said, Purana karma. Yeah, it's already here because of our previous, because we haven't managed to finish things, so we are here. So now we are trapped in a body, and we have to go through this path, this spiritual journey, together with this body, and we need to also take care of it. So this is also why I always emphasize the need of doing the right thing. Not expecting the body to be perfect, that would be wrong view, but doing whatever is helpful to make it good for doing this practice. So taking care of yourself is really important when you need to also take care of others and also to develop your spiritual path. During a Q&A session, I believe, or also during one of the suttas, when we were talking about the awakening factors, 7 awakening factors, we spoke about all of the factors on the spiritual path, whether it is the bojjhangas, whether it is the Noble Eightfold Path, whether it is the balas, the iddhis, whichever it is, the 37 factors there are, if you count them, all are to be developed based on 4 foundations, supported by 4 foundations. The word is nissita, right? Earlier we spoke about anissitocha viharati, or aninja, yeah? Injita and anenja. So injita means shaking, anenja means still, and nissita means that you are leaning onto somebody, being supported by someone, dependent on somebody. And we spoke about when we depend on somebody, then how when they shake, we also shake, and it's a problem, right? So anissito, like being independent, is great. Even at the end of the Satipatthana Sutta, there is always a phrase that comes up, nacha kinchi loke upadiyati ayam piccolo loke anissitocha viharati. What's the correct phrasing? Whatever the correct phrasing is, yeah. Attikayotiva panassa sati pachupattita hoti yavadeva jnanamattaya patisatimattaya anissitocha viharati. Nacha kinchi loke upadiyati. So this word anissito again comes. That is, so it means, or else mindfulness that there is body is simply established in him to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness, and he abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So in this occasion, the word nissita is anisita means independent from all those clinging. But again, in this other 4 base supports, also the word nissita is there. So of course, when you are standing independent, you have to also stand on supported by something, the right kind of support. So that still is dependent on something, and this is the kind of thing that is the right kind of support. So based or supported by these 4 things, we are to develop this path so we can be standing independent on something that is firm, like established, not wavering. So we are well grounded on the path. So and the first one is viveka, so seclusion or solitude, viveka nissita. So based on solitude, you can see the solitude, the very idea is not attaching to things. So it is not the other kind of dependency. This is a very helpful support that is free from, trying to be free from, away from attachments, cravings, and obstructions to the mind. So mind getting secluded, body getting secluded from these very things that agitates us. And viraga nisitang. So raga is passion or desire. So viraga is non-delight, non-passion. So allowing all of our desires to fade away. That's a base. Yeah, that's a support. So based, supported by that we develop the path. So imagine, so the idea is to turn away from desires, turn away from cravings, turn away from lust. That is the kind of mind that we are going to use to develop this path. And nirodha is cessation, so allowing all of these things to come to an end, complete ending of all these constructs, that things that we create, all the sankharas, everything, allowing with the view of everything, even at parinibbana, for even the body to end. So the idea of ending. So based a mind that is allowing and inclined towards cessation. Nirodha nisita. Vasaga parinaming is a mind inclined for complete extinguishment. So the fires that are burning, that we spoke again and again through our six sense bases and also their objects and consciousnesses. So all of those fires to come to an end. Mind inclined on extinguishment. So this is the kind of right support. This is the base that we need to use to develop the spiritual path. And if we don't use that, then we are not kind of doing the path in the right way. If we are thinking, I can have my attachments, I can have these things, I can, but I don't want some of these other things to go away and end, then it is not possible to develop. So you can see how you need that right view. It is a kind of right view that we use as a base. So this viveka is the part that I'm going to talk a little bit more, which is the seclusion. So we already spoke now a little bit about the kaya viveka, the importance of the body being secluded and away from the busy places and the difficulties that it might come to. It also includes rest, enough amount of rest so that you have good energy in your body. So then I'm going to talk about this other sutta, which is in Anguttara Nikaya number 3, sutta number, I believe, 93, called Paviveka Sutta, or solitude. So I'll read it out. It goes, not the whole sutta, just it has a huge part. In this Dhamma and discipline bhikkhus, there are these 3 kinds of solitude for a bhikkhu. What 3? Here, a bhikkhu is virtuous. He has abandoned immorality and remains secluded from it. Second one, he holds right view. He has abandoned wrong view and remains secluded from it. And the third one, he is one whose taints are destroyed. He has abandoned the taints and remains secluded from them. So we'll go a little bit deeper into this to understand. So when we talk about seclusion, like I mentioned at the very beginning, it is bringing the mind into a body and mind into a peaceful state, away from all these things that obstruct our peace, all these things that hinder our peace, the joy and contentment of the mind. So think about what happens when your behavior has not been good, when you have not been all that immoral, you said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. How do you feel in the mind? The mind feels it's in pain, right? It is in difficulty. It is not at ease. It is not at peace. Even just a small word, just the tone of your voice, if that was not nice, you just don't feel good. You realize, so this is the thing. So, but imagine much more if you killed, robbed, adultery, and all these other things. Like, this is why we have these 5 precepts or 8 precepts or all these things to guide us and help us so that we can find seclusion, in the sense being secluded from immorality. So being secluded from immorality, mind comes to a very beautiful state. This is the power of virtue. There is even meditation. The Buddha says, recollection of your own virtue, silanussati. This is supposed to bring a lot of gladness, joy into your mind. So if your meditation isn't going so well, the Buddha recommends to do this kind of reflection. Just remember, you have tried your very best. Since you have taken on board these precepts, you have tried, maybe here and there, it wasn't great, but you have tried. And any time that you have managed to keep it well, you bring joy because it brings ease. This is that being good feels good feeling. So this is a kind of seclusion, an incredibly important kind of seclusion for the mind, because this regret and remorse is what brings on the hindrances. So when we live a virtuous life, then a lot of these hindrances go down. You can see ill will and negativity, restlessness, dullness, all of these things come precisely due to not being virtuous. The more and more moral your conduct is, the way of speech, the way of your body, and the way you think about things. So this is the part that we need to emphasize, because many of us here are very careful with our body, because we are at least concerned, I don't want anybody to see me doing stupid things. So we are quite restrained, but also we understand it's bad, so we don't go around killing and stealing and doing adultery. And speech, intermediate, so we are trying our best, but sometimes, I don't know whether you have realized this, sometimes our mouth speaks before us. Have you felt that? I have felt that. I feel like my mouth has a life of its own sometimes. It starts talking and what am I saying? Before I could stop, it's already said a lot of stuff, right? So this is how fast our speech habits are. But as practitioners, we are all working on it. We are all working, and we are trying our very best to speak in the right way. But how about your mind? How well restrained are you with your mind? This is the thing, because you think nobody can see me, what I am thinking, so I can think what I want, how I want, however long I want it, no problem. So you indulge in your fantasies or nightmares or I don't know whatever it is we think about, right? You just allow our mind to run, thinking it's no problem. But that is the problem number 1, right? Whatever you think about, what happens down the track, later down the track, it will break into speech, right? The thoughts somehow later on break into speech. This is how you end up, your mouth speaking before you, because you thought about it earlier, you've forgotten by now, but that has already been conditioned into you. And then break into action as well, whatever you thought about. Even though at the time you think, I'm never going to do that, I'm just only thinking about it, this is no way I'm going to do it. But one day you end up doing it and you wonder, how did I end up doing it? Because you have already thought about it. This is the thing. So thinking is very dangerous. Whatever the inclination, whatever you think and ponder, that becomes the inclination of your mind, right? And that guides you which direction you are going to go. So it is really kind of difficult. But the Buddha also say, but don't just think that nobody can see. There are some monastics or beings, also like non-human beings, who can see your mind. So they know what you're thinking. So you should still be careful about this, right, as well. But not only because of that, because you know the harm it does to you. It's not because of other beings, doesn't matter that, but it's more the harm it does to you. Think about when you have a fault-finding mind, this is what gets you to depression, right? The way that you think about things. If you're never able to bring up gratitude in things, then your mind, doesn't matter how many good things are happening, you're only looking at the one or two things that are not going well. So this is all done through our mind. So the sila of this mind, the virtue of the mind, is pretty important. Yeah, so don't be heedless with the mind, thinking I just can do whatever I want and then have a bit of fun and games. It's dangerous. It's really very dangerous. So restraining the mind is important, because this is how we get into seclusion, right? So the rest of the things are about seclusion of the mind. So the first part was about immorality, so being secluded from the immorality. This is something you can do. So this is a kind of seclusion you can find in the middle of the city or in the suburbs or wherever you happen to live. So even if you're not in the forest, somewhere far away in this romantic little hut alone, but morality, virtue, taking care of that, you are secluded from immorality. A very beautiful idea, a powerful one and a helpful one for meditation and for progress on the path, this idea of being secluded from immorality. The second one is right view, right? So being secluded from wrong view. So when you go back home, you want to know what to do, things that you can do. So especially when your mind is a little bit peaceful, see what are the kinds of views I have, what are the kinds of views that gets me into trouble every time. It's not too hard to know, because these are repeated events in your life. And see what are the kind of wrong views. Why am I looking at a thing in the wrong way? And how can I now apply and turn it around to right view? See the same thing, but have right view, and see the change it does to your whole life and well-being, because it is the wrong view that gets us into so much difficulty, so much problem, and gets the mind far away from seclusion, far away from deep meditation. And the possibility to get there is blocked when we have strong views and opinions. So I'm also going to take a little bit of time right here, because this verse also had that earlier part, keen and alert, mindful right here. And yesterday I spoke about that snake story. Do you remember? Black snake? Yeah, we can use the same time. So yesterday I spoke about how you can use that to remember the choice, that you have a choice every time, and how you can develop the Noble Eightfold Path every wakeful moment. Do you remember this part? Yes? Okay. So that was just with the idea of Noble Eightfold Path. But I'm going to use the same simile, same kind of scenario. Still it is applying the Noble Eightfold Path, but as a way of dealing with your difficult emotions. Are you interested? Oh yes, okay, great. Because this is a problem, right? A practical issue. No matter how advanced we are in our practice, still these emotions and difficulties and negative mind states really take us away and give us a really hard time. And we feel really vulnerable at times and feel, being really like a victim of these things almost. But we have good news, yeah, we have good news thanks to right view. This is the help of right view. So I often talk about the difficult person in life, but today, because this is very well recorded, many times I talk about this, so instead I'm going to talk about the sad time, right? When somebody you loved has died, or somebody you loved has left you, or something sad like that has happened. Yeah, how do you deal with that? Can you apply some right view into this to overcome? We did use some beautiful similes the other time with the death of the son, how different people looked at the situation. So kind of like that, but just to understand again, because I did mention this earlier, like Manasikara sambhava sabbe dhamma. So sabbe dhamma, all dhammas, so you can take the dhammas that are important, the ones are the mind objects, the emotions, the feelings, because the world of your feelings, the feeling world is what is important for us, right? Because that is where suffering is born. So that is the most important world for us, the area of our concern. The dhammas in that realm is what is important for us. So it is, let's take as all these emotions, the mind states, both good and bad. So sabbe dhamma. Manasikara means the way you give attention, the way you attend to it. Sambhava means give rise to. So all the mind states arise because of the way you attend to it, the way you think about something. So when somebody you love dies, how do you think about it? So the object or the thing is the death of the person. And the way you attend, right, the way you give attention is, oh, I can't live without them. I want them back in my life. I love them. I need them. I want them, right? If you think like this, what happens? You can feel your tears welling up, and before long, you'll be crying and lamenting and, very difficult. So this is how that emotion came about, because of the way you thought about it. But in that story, when that death of that son, or the husband, or the brother, or the master of the house happened, how did they think about? They thought about, oh, this dead body can't see our crying and lamentation. It's dead now, it can't come back. It's like the servant said, the beautiful one, like when the clay pot is cracked, you can't put it back together again. So what's the point in crying? Instead, you realize, okay, this person will fare on into another birth according to their own life, own karma. But that may be a little bit hard for us, right? Because we're still emotionally attached. We may not be at that level of practice to think such high way of thinking. I mean, it's not that hard, but what other ways can you replace your thinking, right? So it is the same dead person, your loved one, right? So when you think, I can't live without them, I want them, I need them, sadness comes up. But if you start instead thinking about what a wonderful person this was, the good qualities, so instead you celebrate their life, all the amazing things that they have done that you know of. When you start thinking about that, what happens? Actually, joy starts to come up. So I remember when I was about 13, I went to a funeral with my father. So, and this funeral was a really sad one. So really everybody was crying and actually asking the dead person to come back. It was kind of silly, but that's how people are. They are really out of their mind, right? Because overcome by this so strong sadness, they don't know what they're saying and doing. So on the way back, my father asked me a very interesting question. I have a very strong connection with my father. I was really close to him. We loved each other very strongly. So, and I'm also an only child. So in the car he was telling, for us, we just lost this, it was his cousin's funeral. My cousin, for cousin's husband, they lost the husband, or the parents lost the son. So for each one of us, we just lost one person. But for him who died, it's like all of us died in one go, right? We never think about from the perspective of the person who died, right? We only think about my loss, and we cry for my now lack of joy that was there based on that my dear one, now they are not there. So my lack of joy is what we are crying more about. We hardly think about what they are going through, right? How difficult it might be, because for them, they lost the cousin lost his wife, lost his children, lost his parents, lost all of his family, lost his job, lost his house, lost his pet, all in one go. So this is what happens when death comes. We were talking about death. We were asking, are you ready to die? people say they are ready to die, you have to ask again, are you ready to let go of all of these things? For sure. If that is, then you're ready to die. But if there are one or two, three things that you're not quite ready to let go of, well, you're not ready to die. So it's important to work on these things, because one day it's going to happen and it is going to be overwhelming. Because if you think death of one loved one is overwhelming, imagine when all of that goes in one go. So he then said, it might be very difficult, and he then thought about himself. And he said, so because he's the older, so he said, if I die one day, and if I see you crying, that will be very difficult for me, because it will be already difficult to be dead. And in a way, I don't want to be dead. But when death happens, and if you cry and say, oh, please, Dad, come back, I would want to come back, but I can't come back. And I'll be really, really sad, because to see you sad will be even more painful for me than the pain I already have to being separated from you. So, of course, when he put it like that, what choice do you have but to say yes and give the promise, I will not cry. Right? So I was only 13, so still really small. So, okay, no problem. When my father dies later in my life, I will be ready for that. 7 days later, he died. Exactly 7 days later. Yeah? Exactly 7 days later, he died, and my promise was fresh in my mind. Right? It's so fresh in my mind, and he just died of a heart attack. And then what do? It was really not easy. It really, because I was so attached to my father, so very attached to my father. He was the biggest thing in my life. So, and it's gone suddenly. And but it was important for me to keep the promise. So I have to tell this, because some people, when I say this story, saying, did you suppress, and it's really bad for you if you suppress? No, I did not suppress. Yeah, I'm sure about it, because I did the reflection. I realized, because he did already tell me, like, when you're dead, you can't come back. There's no point in crying. You can't come back. So I understood that my crying isn't going to do anything, can't come. And more importantly, he's going to be more sad, and I didn't want him to be more sad. Then he explained what the situation would be on his side. Therefore, I realized, so it's through that I was able to try and hold myself. But it was very difficult. So I can see my mind going, I want my dad, and I can feel the tears welling up, and I can't now allow it. So I try to bring my mind back here. Then I realized this is not working, maybe out of desperation. Really, I think, past life practice, I don't know what. I started to think about the good qualities of my father. He was a really beautiful person. I already mentioned earlier, he was like an ice block. My mom was putting up a tantrum, and he thought it was cute. I was very gentle and kind with her. He was really a beautiful person, really generous and kind person. So actually in Sri Lanka, the dead bodies are at home for 10 days that time, because my mother was overseas. Took 5 days for her to return. So the dead body of my father was there for 10 days at home. And every day people would come and talk about nice things. So I was able to sort of reflect, and started reflecting how lucky I was. Even for 13 years, I had a good father, a beautiful person in my life, taught me many beautiful lessons. And how lucky it is, how wonderful a being it is. And I don't have to worry, he's done good things. He will fare on to a good place. So when I start thinking about that, joy came up. Even at a time, for a 13-year-old, I did not have Dhamma at that time. I was not like a practicing Buddhist, none of those. Even though I was a born Buddhist, we only knew ritual at the time. But just that shift, same thing, same person, the way you think about, even at a time like that, it can change. So this is possible. So this is also what we read yesterday. There was a beautiful verse, Sankapparago purisassa kamo, nete kamayani chitrani loke. So that is, it's related to the lust, but it is the same way. So how lust comes about is, again, there is an object. It is your lustful intention that brings up the lust. In the same way, there is the incident of somebody dying, and it's the way you attend, your inability to be parted from them. That way of intending the emotion comes up. The difficult person, looking at their qualities, they're terrible, what they're doing is so unfair, how dare they do it, it's bad and whatever. When you start thinking like that, anger, irritation comes up in your mind. So it is found in that skillful way. So this is where right view is so helpful. When you start thinking along the lines of right view, then you can always build up a positive emotion, a positive state of Dhamma, like bring up a positive mental object in place of a negative one. So in the case of my father's death, instead of sadness, joy was brought up, right? Just by changing the way you look at it. So with the case of a difficult person, you can think about, instead of what they're doing, why are they doing that? We are conditioned by our past, and they are also the owners of their own karma. So they are conditioned by their past and they can't help themselves but do the stupid things that they do that are harmful. They are blind at the time, they can't see. This is the nature of defilements. When they have anger already inside of them, they don't know what they're doing, just like us when we were like that. So that blindness, the darkness of the delusion, but yet your intentional actions have consequences. So when you think like that, instead of getting angry, it is possible to develop compassion for that very person. I'm saying something quite profound that should take long time to explain, but I'm very fast running out of time going into stories. So therefore you need to do the homework. Think about how I can think about things. So you can, if you are able to put right view, learn about right view, understand this is a lifelong practice. Slowly, slowly it is changing your way of attending to things, the way you think about things. When that changes, the emotions, the negative emotions change. So it is very empowering. It's very empowering to know that we are not like victims of our mind and emotions and all these other people outside or the situations that happened. Together with mindfulness and right view, we are able to change the course. This is also like in the first sutta, Ajita Sutta, yeah? The mindfulness and wisdom came up, right, as way of blocking the streams and stopping them completely. So this is how it is, yeah, this is how it is. With mindfulness, you become aware what's going on, the state of mind that you are in, and how you're attending on something, what is the object that you're attending, and how you're attending. Then apply right view into it and see how you can change that. And then you come up with something else. Meditation happens the same way. How does metta meditation come about? Yeah, it's the way of attending with metta, right? May all beings be well. That's the way of attending into the whole world. So like that, you can see how this can be used to practice and how your mind can be secluded. So from wrong views, and then right view or not only brings the seclusion from wrong view, but it increases, your peace and joy, and takes you even further into seclusion, because your hindrances, your defilements are going to fall out. Some of them going to get eradicated. Precisely like this too, when your mind is very powerful after deep meditation, then you get into real seclusion from the hindrances. And then the last one is being secluded from the taints. Taints are destroyed, so that is at full arahantship. So that is when all of these taints, the asavas, they are the ogas, this crossing the flood we were talking about. So the karma oga, bhava oga, ditthi oga, avijja oga. So sensuality, existence, the delusion, and also views. And there are a few other things as well. So all of these taints, yeah, when they are completely destroyed, so being secluded from that means the mind of an arahant, yeah. So that's a perfect seclusion. So in here, in this verse, the Buddha says, "I shall teach you that peace," replied the Buddha, "that is apparent in the present, not relying on tradition. Having understood it, one lives mindfully, may cross over, clinging to the world. I delight, great seer, in that supreme peace, having understood which, one who lives mindfully may cross over the clinging to the world. Once you have understood that, everything, replied the Buddha, you are aware of in the world, above, below, across, and in between, is a snare. Don't crave for any kind of existence. So here the Buddha giving the answer to that seclusion as the highest one, the last one, the being freed from all the taints. Everything is finished with, and you are a fully enlightened being. That's the highest form of seclusion, that Viveka Dhamma. But now we spoke about all the degrees and all the levels, and also how you can find seclusion in the middle of your busy life by being virtuous, by building up right view. And virtue and right view are the cornerstones of right mindfulness. So you can find this in all the Satipatthana Samyutta, everywhere, Ujjuka Ditti and Sila. So these two are very important if you want to build up the path, if you want to build up stronger mindfulness and get into deep meditation. So this is something that is to be encouraged and to work towards. So I still like to read again something that I've read before, because these are kind of very inspiring, because we are coming close to the very end of the hour. So this is from the Udana again. I read this earlier, but I rushed through it. So it's nice to reflect this again. For the independent, there is agitation. For the dependent, there is agitation. For the independent, there is no agitation. When there is no agitation, there is calm. When there is calm, there is no inclination. When there is no inclination, there is no coming or going. When there is no coming or going, there is no passing away and rebirth. When there is no passing away and rebirth, there is no here or there or in between the two. Just this is the end of suffering. So quite beautiful to reflect this, because we are just going around and round in circles in this very place, right? So really you need quite a bit of time being shown from different angles, so that we get inspiration to do this thing that is worthwhile doing, right? So yeah, so that's what I have to say. And also there's another beautiful verse also from Sutta Nipata chapter 3. One who is independent is not vulnerable, but one who is dependent and grasping in this form of existence or some other does not escape transmigration. Knowing this danger that dependencies are the great fear, independent, not grasping, mindful, a bhikkhu would go forth. So same idea coming up again and again to bring you to that beautiful state. And there's still 10 minutes, so time is running, and there are many suttas that I'm supposed to be saying. I don't think I will finish otherwise. So I might do this sutta, which is a very profound one, but it's short. It's on page 45, the questions of kappa, right? So for those overwhelmed by old age and death, said Venerable Kappa, standing in the middle of the stream, as the terrifying flood arises, tell me an island, dear sir, explain to me an island, so this might occur no more. So, for those overwhelmed by old age and death, replied the Buddha, Standing in the middle of the stream, as the terrifying flood arises, I shall tell you an island kappa. Owning nothing, grasping nothing, this is the island with nothing further. I call it extinguishment, the ending of old age and death. Those who have fully understood this, mindful, are quenched in this very life. They don't fall under the Mara's sway, nor are they his footmen. So, I don't know how much explanation is necessary. It is a deep sutta if you want to go deep, but we have been talking about these things. Ajahn Brahmali has also been talking about this, and this afternoon I believe Ajahn Brahmali will really get into this nothingness business as well. So you will understand it even further, but already we understand how we can find a refuge in having nothing. That having things is the problem. We think, when we think about a refuge, a place where we want to go when we are in trouble, that's a refuge, right? A refuge is a place where we go to when there is a storm or floods or something like this. And all the things that we look for a refuge in the world is, we look for money, right, as a refuge, our investments. We look for knowledge and information as a refuge. We look for contacts, people who can support and help us. We look for insurances companies, right? These are the places we think will offer some good refuge when we are in trouble. But we have all lived long enough to know how much of a refuge those things are. Yes, they can provide some things, but can they take away your heartache? Where do you find a refuge when your heart is burning, is in pain, incredible suffering? Can money help it? Not really, isn't it? It can take you some, medicine or something, or you can eat some chocolate cake. The problem doesn't go away, right? So for these kind of real problems, the real sufferings in the world, the real refuge is in these teachings, in the Buddha's teachings, in the right view. And we all have experienced a little bit about it the moment we understand a little bit. And when the moment we apply these things into our life, we have found peace in our life. Have you not? Have you? So we know that that is where the refuge is. And that is to begin with. That's one kind of refuge. This is another way of looking at the same thing, the seclusions. So you can find a refuge in virtue. You can find a refuge in right view. You can find a refuge in destruction of all taints. That is the ending of everything. So here the Buddha is talking again about the highest form, owning nothing, grasping nothing. This is the island with nothing further. So this is an epithet to Nibbana. But some people just misunderstand, thinking that Nibbana is an island. It's a place where all the enlightened beings go to and live happily ever after. But it is just a simile. It's not an island in that same, it's a kind of way, a refuge, a place. In the sense, it's not a place, but a mind. So it's ended, so it's not even a thing, it's asankata, it's unconditioned. But the idea is, you can already see, when the less you own already, how much freedom you have. The less things in your head, how free you feel. But why do we go after watching news, reading this, hungry for information and knowledge? So knowledge and wisdom is two different things to me. Some people talk them as if they are similes, but not to me. Knowledge is somebody else's wisdom, or not even wisdom, some findings and things when it comes to scientific knowledge. But wisdom is understanding life for what it is, like true insight coming from your experience and seeing it clearly with wisdom, in the sense seeing it clearly when the mind is free of defilements. Seeing that, you get an understanding, and what you understand is this big problem. that, there is not a sense of self. We saw in the previous classes, how conceivings, how we, based on just a sense experience, assume a sense of self. I am the one who experienced. I am the one who owns. This is mine. I want it. All this I and mine business. Ahankara and mamankara. Yeah, so I making, mind making, all of that is the starting point of owning things. Yeah, and then based on the cravings that comes up as a result of you being there, all the things that we attach to, we spoke at quite a length, the problem of these attachments, the nature of these attachments. And so all of these things, how much of a refuge it is not. Like we think we grasp things. Do you have this thing, a full house full of things? Can't throw anything out just in case? Yeah, just in case. So because of these just in cases, your house is full, like really cluttered, really difficult, a lot of wasted money as well because of that. But when it comes to real issues, real problems in life, these things can't offer anything useful. So this is where, this owning nothing, grasping nothing, that extinguishment is again that we spoke last time. Etang samtang, etang panitang, yadidang, sabba sankara samuto, sabbu padipati nisaggo, tanhakkayo, virago, nirodo, nibbana. This is peaceful, this is sublime, and that is the sabba sankara samuto, the settling of all the sankara. So that is mainly the will, your intentions, the willed actions. Imagine all of your will dying down, settling down, not bossing you around. The will is the jailer of your prison. It is because of that we are in this prison of our views, opinions, concepts, perceptions. We spoke all of these things earlier, how we are in a mental prison, trapped inside, feeling very solid bars, but they are nothing but mentally created. So, it is the will. So imagine that will, sabba sankara samato, so that will settling down. Sabbu padipati nisaggo, all of your attachments thrown out, gone. So free, independent, Attachments is what binds you. You are now free from attachments. Sabbu padipati nisaggo, tanhakkayo, your craving coming to a complete end, ending. Virago, all that desire, lust, fading away, nirodho, all of that ceasing, cessation, and that is nibbana, right? So really beautiful, and that is that island, nothing else. That's what this deep suttas main thing is. As we said, every sutta is very deep. We can do almost a whole retreat with one sutta, but given that we are doing all 16 or at least 14 or 15, that's all I'm going to share with the Kappa Sutta, and that's the sharing for this morning. Okay.